Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Black Brain Trust. This is episode 146. I'm here with my co-facilitator, Lionel.
Hello, everyone. How y'all doing today? How's everyone doing? How you doing today, Mike?
I'm good, brother. Yourself?
I am well.
Yeah, peace to the chat. Hit the like button as you come in, and there's a docket in the description beneath the video if you want to follow along. All right, let me share my screen and we can get started. All right, so first item on the docket is solar energy in Morocco. Solar energy in Morocco is transforming the renewable energy scene. One of the world's biggest solar power plants is situated in Morocco. Um, Lionel, did you have a chance to look at this?
I bet. Yeah. Oh, ugh, screen's bright. Yeah. Uh, get to it real quick so I can go to sections. All right. First off, I'm glad that these brothers are in Morocco doing the work, doing some work there. Um, bad Morocco being northern Africa and all. Uh, Morocco is obviously northwest Africa. It's hmm, the terrain there is pretty much. It's not. How am I trying to say this? It's not a luscious green. It's more arid desert like you see now. So there's more than enough room to put up solar panels and to get solar panels organized in order for you to take advantage of that solar energy. And then then you have these sections in Morocco that's not a part of Casablanca or the capital of Morocco. These little pockets, villages, little towns, and where these people go with rolling blackouts, go days without sun, um, go days without the basic needs that we have here in America to operate. And with this solar panel, so solar energy, not specific solar, well, solar energy, it provides them with the basic needs, the creature comforts that they would need to run a more, I want to say, successful life, but a more advanced life, I should say. the The documentary is talking about, a short documentary is talking about solar energy. So with the energy that comes from the solar energy, they can use it to other things that they will have to really do before the sun goes down. Now they can continue working when it's dusk or when the sun go down, or like I said before, when there's no energy or so forth.
Yeah, the reason why I posted this on the docket is because it's about infrastructure. This is the micro infrastructure development that has to be taken one step at a time, and it's attainable goals that can actually be set. So that's why it got put on the docket, and it's demonstrating how rudimentary and how basic it is to actually implement uh, energy infrastructure into places that had no infrastructure to begin with. As we see, if you had a chance to watch the video, or if you do watch the video, they talk about being inside these villages with candles, gas lanterns, and things of that nature, battery operated products that were not sufficient for human life in modern day. So these solar panels, I think, generate somewhere between 80 to 100 watts, which is fairly sustainable for a village, for one house or even two little huts for that matter. As you see in the video, 100 watts. can power up 100 light bulbs, LED based light bulbs. So, and then you kind of counter in other little energy efficient products such as electric stoves and things of that nature, or electric stove tops, things like that that could actually be powered by a small, a small solar panel. So
Mm-hmm.
that's why that was on this docket. The second reason why I put this on the docket is because they focus on um, they talk about let me see if I can find the section.
They kind of overlap with what we talked about in previous hangouts with the tower and the field of solar panels.
Well, Morocco is the only country in Africa that actually has that.
Mm.
If I can find the here it is right here. Yeah, Morocco is the only country in Africa that actually has a solar thermal plant in place, and it powers up to 2 million homes,
Mm.
which is roughly the size of Chicago, for that matter, in terms of human and household capacity. 7,000 mirrors being used that heats up oil, that turns a turbine that creates electricity that powers the whole entire city. That's infrastructure on the mass scale, but it's also scalable. So when we looked at the beginning of the video, like we're looking at right here, you see small scale infrastructure development happening in real time that can actually be done by a lot of black people.
Mm-hmm. Now, as I was looking at the video, the small villages and towns that they were going in and out of, uh, displaying how these people don't have sustainable light energy. These small towns are situated on hillsides or mountainsides.
Mm-hmm.
That tells me where that you can situate and install solar panels on top of these houses, and they
Mm-hmm.
don't interfere with other solar panels that are there. One moment,
Yeah, that's actually a good point. So now you're talking about creating microgrids by
right,
solar panels. So yeah,
right.
that's actually pretty good. And now you're talking about having your own um, utility company or energy company in small spaces, in small environments where um, you can charge by token or have people pay by phone for their electricity to come to their house.
Uh-huh. Yeah, everything is connected, and I know you saying it was 100 watts. You mentioned that. That's not even counting people that are creative that look at this and say, "Wow, this is what I need to expand my uh, farm or my family's farm. This is what I need. If we can, we we already used to not having light at night. We can go a few days without it.
Hmm.
Not specifically save it up, boy, but use that light towards something, that energy towards something else. You can. There's entrepreneurial spirits everywhere.
Hmm.
Not just in America. And you may have someone that come up with a ingenious idea to use the little energy that they're given to expand and farm or whatever it is that they have. Um, yeah.
Yeah, and they also have something called Green Mosque as a project being led by Morocco, and the idea is to power up mosque with solar panels on these mosques. Now you imagine you have a mosque that has all of these solar panel fixtures all on them, as well as maybe some wind turbines. And what that does is allow the mosque to actually operate as a micro grid, for that matter.
Mm,
The mosque can sustain itself by delivering electricity to other nearby houses and things of that nature, and you actually charging them, and creating these microgrids again, like I said earlier. So there's all types of opportunities happening right now in Africa um, that people should pay attention to. So that's why this was on the docket.
Yeah, and it's a short documentary. It's just 28 minutes, 30 minutes long.
Mhm.
Look at and get a good um, understanding of what we're talking about.
Right, and they're using it not just for light, but they're actually using it for water pumps. So
Yeah.
they took quite a few solar panels that ran in a series in less than 4 hours, and were able to. Let me see if I can pull up the video. Pull up the second of the video. Here it is, right here. It, he was also able to set up these solar panels as we're seeing in the video right now. I think there's about one, two, three, four, five solar panels. It connected to a water pump that actually pumps water from a reservoir so that they can irrigate their crops.
hmm And not only just irrigate your crops, you can expand the boundaries of where your crops grow. So
Mhm.
if there's your boundary started at stop at a certain um, line, because beyond that you really can't grow anything because of the ground area. You can transform that to um, expand the area that in which you grow, and not only that, but you can pump that water up. Find a way. I'm sure they're gonna find a way, or just buy a system that'll allow them to pump it up and out. That's what I'm trying to say.
Mhm. Yeah, I think it's a great documentary. If you really pay attention to what they're saying and some of the politics that happens behind it, as well as the ingenuity, you'll get an idea of how how uh, how important it is and how simple it is to actually implement infrastructure on a micro scale. That's where my mindset is. That's why I got. That's why I took away from it.
Yeah, good documentary.
Mhm. All right, this next one is from TrueNews.com. Ulysses Complex Design actually sent this in. Is Israel using this technology to revolutionize technology revolution to dominate the world? So, um, what do you think? I don't know. Did you get a chance to look at this, Lana? All right, he's away. So,
Yeah,
what I'll
my
do.
bad. Uh, I keep this. I keep thinking I'm hitting this mute button. No, I didn't catch this one.
All right. So basically, Israel is focusing on being a technology superpower in comparison to the other great superpowers in the world, such as the United States and Britain and Russia and so on and so forth. Now I have a lot of feedback coming from
All right.
you. Yeah, Israel is working on being a technology superpower, and they plan on utilizing artificial intelligence um, to challenge the other rival superpowers in the world. 10 years ago, they weren't there. By 2018, 2019, they are in that position to actually challenge other continental superpowers on the map. So the transition, the way to transition to get there was to actually invest into STEM and to actually bring in research centers, develop their own research centers, so that other foreign companies can actually do the research in Israel to to do the necessary scientific work that gets done. Allegedly, according to the president or the prime minister of Israel, a lot of the research that gets done there is actually outperforming the research that gets done in the domestic markets, such as the United States, such as Mexico, such as um, Britain and China and Japan and those places. So, according to this video, Israel is a technology superpower. Um, what that means is that they have the intellectual capacity to challenge anyone by leveraging their human resources, their human capital. Do you have any comments on this, Orlando?
Okay, now, all right, I understand that. Um, hmm, what would how would this put them in the world stage? I understand right now because right now their cybersecurity. We talk about this. Their cybersecurity capabilities are outstanding. Now they're investing in STEAM heavily, and we talk about how India is an IT powerhouse. Um, Basically, really off the strength of their population, and India, not India, Israel, its population is not as big, obviously, but they're heavily investing in the STEM, educating their people, getting up to speed on STEM because they see, obviously, they see the future and where technology stands in the future. How would this put, where would this put Israel on a world stage in terms of technological powerhouses compared to other countries?
Well, it it allows them to be integrated into these vertical markets. So artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, battery research, chemical research, things of that nature gets done there, and then other countries, um, private entities or state entities will be dependent upon Israel, which ties them right back into global markets, which makes it hard for them, hard for other people who are in opposition to challenge the state itself. So now they have a sustainable economy based on their intellectual capabilities.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. All right. Um, that's a good move. That's a good move because we know that Israel is always fighting. They've been fighting within that area of the world for the better part of their existence, if not all their all their existence. To tell you the truth, this is a good move. It's a good conquering strategy without using force. Um,
Hmm.
they are making sure that, like you said, their economy is self-sustaining. You just mentioned how they're going to be able to create these type of not create, well, yeah, create and be a part of these type of technologies in the future. So other surrounding countries are going to have to come to them, be reliant on them to sustain themselves. So they they will not be in a position to attack or invade Israel because they'll be self-sustaining. I understand. This is a great move. Great move. Great calculated, thought out, planned move in their part or on their part.
Yeah, paid for by the U.S. tax dollar.
I will not argue that.
All right, let me move to the next article. All right, next item on the docket is from CryptoBriefing.com. Uniting the ledgers, 5 projects for cross-blockchain compatibility. In today's blockchain industry, each blockchain project has unique. Yeah, that's grammatically wrong. Has unique a ecosystem of users, tokens, and DApps, decentralized apps. As a result, the blockchain projects often operate in silos, each one separate from the others. As the industry as the industry grows and progresses, interoperability between chains has become a new frontier for project blockchain development. Why blockchain interoperability is necessary. Lack of interoperability has become a considerable hindrance for blockchain adoption. Without this connectivity, it's impossible to transfer assets from one blockchain to another, and smart contracts are unable to interact with one another. There are some solutions to the application level through companies like Crowd Machine, which offers a solution that easily incorporates the quote interoperability of its apps with any blockchain. However, this is not a decentralized solution. What are cross blockchain protocols and why are they needed? Cross blockchain protocols are emerging technology to allow value and information to move between different blockchains. They can settle transactions between different blockchains using different consensus mechanisms while eliminating the need for third party intervention. Several emerging projects are attempting to develop platforms that can communicate with one another without a third party intermediary. These projects include POA, WanChain, Polkadot, Komodo, and Arc, among many others. WanChain. WanChain is a cross blockchain platform that seeks to create a quote distributed bank by connecting and exchanging value between different ledgers to establish a decentralized financial infrastructure. The protocol provides a framework for financial applications based on digital assets and cryptocurrencies. It's also an independent blockchain network complete with support for its native coin, smart contracts, and D apps. WanChain's goal is to provide financial services to all blockchain clients through their financial platform, though through which any individual firm or institution can set up a business window to provide services. These services could include asset exchanges, credit payments, and transaction settlements. Polkadot. Polkadot is an inter-blockchain protocol that aims to allow independent blockchains to seamlessly transact and exchange information in a trust-free manner via multiple chains. The multiple chains provide a sort of pooled security for each member of the network, regardless of the blockchain in which they operate. The Polkadot protocol envisions itself as a complex multi-chain technology with three key components: relay chains, parachains, and bridges. That's just a picture of a topology of the relay chain. The coordinated efforts of these three chains aim to allow for the protocol to process several transactions in parallel, making it easy to attain autonomy or formal verification. It's really interesting. ARC is an open ecosystem with the primary purpose of increasing global blockchain adoption. It seeks to create an all-in-one blockchain solution that's flexible, adaptable, and highly scalable, creating a quote virtual spider web of endless use cases. ARC's bridge chains can interact with any other blockchain and provides several tools for users to create their own custom blockchains within minutes. It's really cool. The ARC network seeks to address the problem of poor blockchain adoption by providing projects with the ability to create, customize, and scale their blockchain networks. It uses DPoS consensus algorithm, whereby users stake tokens to quote vote for 51 block producing nodes. That makes entry to the network easy. Unlike other DPoS systems, one only needs to stake some tokens with no need to remain online in order to receive a share of block forging rewards. Get to Komodo. Komodo is an open source platform that offers support for fungible, transparent, and private transactions. In 2018, the platform developed UTXO-based smart contracts, which can be implemented on the Bitcoin blockchain. Komodo's vision to create a healthy multi-blockchain ecosystem that enhances easy access and understanding of technology. In addition to UTXO-based smart contracts, the platform boasts atomic swaps, scalability solutions, and interoperability solutions. They also launched some unique projects like decentralized ICOs and customizable quote blockchain starter kits that can be tailored to individual client or enterprises' requirements. Each chain in the ecosystem is interoperable with the Komodo main chain through atomic swaps. The POA. The POA network is a fully decentralized permission blockchain that primarily focuses on Ethereum protocol. It uses proof of authority consensus algorithm through a network of nodes, known validators, and governance-based penalty system. The POA network offers a cross-chain bridge to increase interoperability between protocols. With the bridge, platform users can transfer native POA tokens from the POA network to the Ethereum network. The POA 20 standard has exact characteristics of the ERC20 token. It can be used on any platform with ERC20 compatibility. The POA blockchain is live and offers cross-chain compatibility with Ethereum. Lionel, what do you think about this? I really like this WAN chain though. If I have to say so, WAN chain and Polkadot.
Yeah, I'm only familiar with WAN chain from their IPO during the IPO craze of 2017. But this is more of an evolution in blockchain, cryptocurrencies.
Mhm.
You have different blockchains, and in the cryptocurrency world, of course, you have different blockchains. If you try to send Ethereum to the Bitcoin blockchain, it doesn't work. Your Ethereum will be lost forever, and vice versa. And with any two other cryptocurrencies, they don't speak to each other. They're not compatible.
Mhm.
This is, like I said, a common sense evolution where you have different blockchains, so you can do business within each blockchain from one blockchain. Atomic swaps, for instance, you can trade one crypto for another and not lose it. You'll be able to swap. A natural evolution, in my opinion. WAN chain, I heard from them. I've been hearing how good they are, and I I like them. I like them just like you. I'm familiar with Arc and Komodo.
Mhm.
Um, when the article talked about how you are able to get rewards, you don't have to have a wallet on. I'm familiar with them by learning in the crypto world. We talk about those two a lot. Those who've been around since a while. Wine Chain been around since about a year and a half now, I would say. But yeah, this is a natural evolution. You're going to have this. You can't have cryptocurrency become mass adopted, and these blockchains can't communicate with each other. It's like different businesses that don't communicate with each other. Businesses make deals with each other. They merge and acquisitions, and they partner on things. And it's the same thing with blockchains.
Yeah, there needs to be like a SWIFT system that's interoperable with different institutions that allows that pass through. So I think that's everyone's trying to address that issue, but who has the most robust product or the most robust blockchain is going to be the one that actually drives it forward. Super Triz asks, would Polkadot protocol allow for certain malicious exploits? I think the purpose of Polkadot is to air gap by breaking apart different um, different protocols within the chain itself. That's why it has it's quoted as trust-free manner, right? And it has the relay chain, the parachain, as well as the bridges. So even if you wanted to attack it, you would have to take down all three of the instances in order to see something happen. Blockchain should not be susceptible to um, malicious attacks. So a malicious attack would be like what happened to Ethereum with those 51% exploits that was happening a few months ago. If I remember correctly, it was Ethereum, or it might have been EOS. Might have been EOS. but the point that I'm making here is that they can attack it from those protocols that were set up because they weren't decentralized. Or not that they weren't decentralized, but they were easily spoofed. For that matter, they can spoof the cycles in that in the token development, if I remember correctly. They can spin up a wallet or something to that effect, and then the am I saying this correctly, Rhino? If that's how it happened with the ERC20 exploit?
Yeah, it was the Ethereum Classic. What?
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Yeah,
Right. It was a Ethereum Classic.
right.
So
And it wasn't because blockchain is decentralized. That's where it gets its strength and the
mhm.
decentralization. Ethereum Classic wasn't decentralized enough.
Right. Right. So that was the vulnerability, and if I remember correctly, Polkadot actually addresses that issue in its design because it's air gapped between different areas of the different components of relay chains, power chains, and bridges. So shouldn't have that problem. But I do think that there are different sort of what we call endpoint protections. What you call antivirus on a desktop, we call it actually endpoint protections on in cybersecurity. So you can actually set up a signature, or you can put um, these blockchains to ride on what we call containers. And in containers, you can secure the container as you spin it up from the container orchestration, such as Kubernetes, and you can protect it that way because once a container gets tampered with, the container goes down. It can't be modified. It's just like blockchain, but it's a small virtual machine. So you have a small virtual machine, and then you have a blockchain sitting on top of that, or sitting within that container. The blockchain is immutable, and so is the container itself. So if there's any sort of malicious attack against it, that container is not going to work anymore. In that blockchain, the next node is not going to recognize the transaction that comes down the chain itself. Well, good question though.
Yeah, yeah, and these questions and what we're talking about is good conversation because it's not just reading an article and we giving our 2 cents. Like I mentioned to you before, we've been doing it for 100. What's this? 146 episodes. You kind of know, and we take that for granted because we already know we went over bits and piece of parts of here and there. So we already know it's a pie, but other people may not know it's a pie. So
Mhm.
I'm glad you all are asking questions in the chat. And again, with this article, like I said many times in my 2 cents, this is just a natural evolution. You can compare in this instance, in this example, in this part of this article, you can compare blockchains to businesses. They cooperate with each other on certain things. They say, uh, AWS has the infrastructure.
Mhm.
Netflix wants to use AWS. They different businesses, but they talk to each other on certain things. And per this article, it's just the same thing. It's not
Mhm.
nothing wrong with it at all. At all.
All right, this one is from Blockchain Council. How can blockchain be used in real estate? All right, so what is blockchain? A distributed technology that creates a ledger where timestamping arranges the information in chronology. It ensures that the data encrypted, thus reducing the probability of information leakage or alteration. All these factors account for making blockchain an inevitable technology of the future. Provenance and decentralization form the base of blockchain technology. All these features ensure that blockchain remains a reliable platform for every data or money or information exchange. It is these features of blockchain that we are witnessing companies investing in, exploring various avenues of application of blockchain technology. Blockchain and real estate teaming up. Gone are the days when people used to rely on paperwork when it came to property dealing. With the evolution of digitalization, we saw every industry transforming, but still there remain areas where we needed more transformation, and real estate was one of them. From little clearance to payment to the sale of property, or from title clearance to payment to the sale of property, every aspect of real estate has some discrepancies associated with it. Blockchain aims to overcome these bottlenecks and streamline the entire business operation in real estate. How can blockchain resolve the issues associated with blockchain? What a weird question. I think that's written wrong. Would you say so, Lionel? Am I bugging?
No, no, you're not. How will blockchain resolve the issue associated with blockchain?
Yeah,
No, you're not. Man, we get these
I don't know
articles.
who wrote this.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't know who wrote this.
they were tired when they wrote it.
Yeah, smart contracts. This is by far the best application of blockchain that we can have. In real estate, agreements in real estate agreements, a lot of moving parts vest with the middleman. But with the blockchain intervention, we can expect a lot of changes in this domain. A smart contract is a pre-programmed contract that has all the conditions agreed and mentioned in the agreement. These conditions have been pre-decided by the two parties. With smart contracts, we will have no middleman interaction. The processing of payment takes place once the conditions mentioned in the smart contracts are executed. We can also link the smart contract payment with cryptocurrencies, thus promoting the use of digital transactions and cryptocurrencies. Additionally, smart contracts execution doesn't rely on the validation and approval of intermediaries. Thus, it consumes much lesser time. The contracts will have all the details of the property and information is encrypted and secured. End-to-end transactions. There are companies like Property who are working in this domain. Property has come up with a platform for buyer, seller, title agents, and brokers to come together through a suite of smart contracts on blockchain to promote transaction. This system is one of a one of a kind that has its first property sale of blockchain in California. Many such platforms are being created, which will have all the work related to a property like listing, selling, auction, etc., performing on one platform. Seamless transaction. Sorry, excuse me. Seamless transactions. This is yet another important feature of blockchain. When it comes to real estate, then there is a complex and lengthy contract procedure that one has to follow as the property changes hands. As present, at present, any real estate transactions are reviewed and interviewed by several intermediaries, which not only consumes time, but at the same time, it also involves costs. With the help of blockchain, we can have a direct connection between the buyer and seller who can interact without any third party intervention. And once the terms are agreed on, the payment can be processed instantly. Title clearance. One of the most significant areas of concerns that bothers the real estate sector is the title clearance. Often it becomes difficult to trace the owner of the property. Currently, one has to go through a lot of paperwork for the same. But with the help of blockchain, we can easily trace the property ownership and its history without consuming too much time. So, um, this is actually a very good use case, if you think about a lot of the um, talk in Africa about you know re redistribution of land back to indigenous populations.
Hmm.
Government creates a transaction, then the indigenous population on the ground just has to agree to it, and then the transaction is done. No more going down to city hall or some other office and waiting in line. You could do this all from your smartphone.
Yeah. A while ago, we went over how Rwanda was implementing blockchain for their real estate. This works on many levels, and to go over some of the points that this article went over, it the first one was smart contracts. So when people buy house, let's use the buying a house scenario. When people buy houses, they have to get inspections. They have to make sure of the history of the house. Uh, in any other inspections one would go through when purchasing the house. Now, what will happen is that takes time. You got to make sure that you have the money. But with smart contracts, when the person that's selling the house, when they prove that this is this and this is that, and the person that's going to buy the house, they go through all their checks. What they'll do is lock that money up in a smart contract. And once everything is agreed upon, that this passes this type of inspection and so forth, then that smart contract releases that money, because the smart contract is if this then that, um, type of coding thus far as of today. With the end-to-end transactions, it was, what was the sentence said? In many, all right, it says many such platforms are being created, which will have all the work related to a property like listing, selling, auction, etc., performing in one platform. So all of that, if you take all of that in that one sentence, all of that right now, you have to go through different websites. You have to go to the city hall. You have to get an attorney. It's a lot involved, and it takes a lot of energy out when you're trying to purchase a house or apartment building and so forth. With the blockchain, it not only consolidates that, but it makes it more. It makes it easy. It makes the process easier, and also it makes the process, when you have to go through all that, people tend to think, I just want to get this over with. They start to cut corners, and they start to do the wrong thing, basically. And it comes back and bite them in the butt. But with this, it makes it where it's easier to do that, and now you can do everything where it doesn't come back and bite you in the butt in the end transaction. It just makes it easier. Seamless transactions. This was basically saying how two people want to conduct a real estate contract, but right now there's a lot of middlemen. You got the real estate uh, person with the real estate license, the attorney, and so forth. You got to get these people involved. The real estate broker want their cut. Of course, the attorney is going to want his cut, usually up front. You got to get the place inspected. So now you're looking at, you thought you were going to spend X amount of money, but it then ballooned up to this amount, to this amount. So a lot of expenses are involved. With seamless transactions, you can basically go to a person and say, I want to buy this. See, you have this house for sale. I want to buy it. You go through whoever's blockchain that will allow you to do transactions seamless. Then you can coordinate that with City Hall, so they'll know that, hey, this property now belongs to this person, and a lot of the middleman is now cut out. Now there will be some years in the future where it will be as seamless as possible, but that's what you're looking at. And then title clearance, it said that they have sometimes have a hard time, after it becomes difficult to trace the owner of the property. You may, in these inner cities, these are slumlords. You know, a lot of people are slumlords, so you don't know who owns the property. You don't know where they at. This time in Chicago, when we had the winter vortex, you had Some buildings were not heated, so people in their house freezing, freezing to death. My sister was like that. I didn't even know. So now you can track down these landlords quicker instead of going through paperwork. Um, if
Hey,
you
what's
want to
going on,
buy,
man?
what's going on, complex, and that
Good
and
evening, gents.
good
What's going
evening.
on?
And also you can if you want to buy a house, you riding around because some people ride around. They real estate investors. They say, "Wow, that's a good property." Uh, Now they gotta scurry and find the owner of this property, but you may go to the city hall and access their front end DAP, decentralized app, and say, "Well, who owns this?" Such and such, and get that going quicker. So this can revolutionize and really help streamline the real estate industry. Blockchain can.
Complex, you have anything you want to add to this?
I kind of came in halfway. I was listening, and then I stepped away and came back in. But just to kind of follow the meat of the topic, just how blockchain can benefit the real estate the real estate industry. I mean, pretty much. I mean, we're talking just in terms of record keeping, everything on down to from deeds and land grants to commercial contracts and all that type of stuff. I agree with Lionel. There's a lot of sort of like bureaucratic red tape that gets eliminated when you go to a ledger system, right? That's hyper streamlined to accommodate transactions, pure and simple, from one party to another without any sort of intermediaries. So, I agree with him. It would streamline the industry across the board and allow for things to happen quicker. And you can take this stuff and institute it into emerging markets, and right off the bat, again, you're going to put indigenous land titles and land grants into the blockchain. Then at that point, there's no question, right, about who owns the land and all of that at that point. So I see it as a plus positive.
Yeah, and even in these countries, I've even heard in Kenya, people will put signs in their window not for sale because you don't know who owns the property. Somebody may say, "Hey, y'all own this property," and they selling you a property that they don't own. All that is gone once this is fully implemented.
All right. So the next article is from Forbes.com. Expanding blockchain analysis and investigation cross chains. The fourth part in a continuous series on how graph databases can be used to explore and analyze blockchains. How can it, Mino, can you mute yourself? A lot of feedback coming from you. How can investigation into money distribution and tracking funds cross the borders of blockchain? In the previous part of the series, we looked at distribution patterns on the XRP ledger. However, crypto share is comprised of many blockchains, so how can we tackle that? First, it is essential to understand the concept of gateways. To buy any cryptocurrency, you have to bridge fiat to the cryptocurrency of choice, typically through an exchange, a gateway between fiat and a cryptocurrency. To trade one cryptocurrency for another cryptocurrency in similar fashion, you have to go through a gateway. These gateways are a piece of the puzzle that makes it possible to widen transparency from one to many blockchains and trace funds cross-chain. That's just an exploded diagram of multiple blockchains and transactions.
Hmm.
The above the above illustration the above illustration is a random graph. Here it represents one blockchain. Bigger nodes are wallets, and smaller nodes are payments. Now we have two blockchains. One could be XRP and the other Bitcoin. If we can identify Bitcoin XRP gateway wallets in both graphs, we can connect the graphs on these nodes. As you can see right here, they're connecting different wallets to two different blockchains. Moreover, if all payment nodes have information about the estimated fiat value at the time of the transaction, we have a common denominator, useful for finding distribution patterns, even without transparency of the gateway's private ledgers. Interesting. Even though this transparency may seem scary, it is one of the great benefits of the public blockchains for counterfeiting money, laundering, and fraud, thefts, and more. If gateways are required to make their wallet addresses available to authorities as part of AML, anti-money laundering, for those who don't know, AML requirements, joining the blockchains would be even easier. Maybe even providing insight in non-personal identifiable information, or PII, of deposits and withdrawals. The theoretical approach can be extended to almost all blockchains, with exception to the privacy-focused blockchains. This is the exact traceability they are created to circumvent. While this is great for personal privacy concerns, is it also for a positive for society? This is actually an interesting analysis on multiple blockchains, multiple wallets, and how to track them, and using data science to actually do the analysis through graphs.
Yeah, you know, I guess it was going to get to a point, right, where now the level of the layering of the blockchains is going to start to stack one on top of the other, right? I mean, we've largely just seen the deployment of, you know, proprietary blockchains, right? For Bitcoin, for example, there's a blockchain for Ethereum. There's a blockchain for this, right? But now the Ethereum, Bitcoin, this blockchain, that blockchain is going to be stacking on top of each other because there's transactions happening across all three to four layers. So, you know, the complexity, if you thought blockchain, this stuff was kind of fuzzy in its logic and it's kind of abstract, you know, well, you know, we've just gone to phase 2 of this. So.
I know.
Yeah, cryptocurrency was discovered. Cryptocurrencies and blockchain came to the party together. They were discovered at the same time because cryptocurrencies need a system in which it will operate successfully, and thus blockchain was created. You know, it was initially created so you can spend money and transact with each other without the government knowing, or apart from the government, and not using fiat money, the U.S. dollar, or whichever fiat money, centralized fiat money that a person will use. Those were the whole purposes of cryptocurrency. And you use the blockchain to track, hey, this person actually sent a blockchain explorer, block explorer is what they say, to say, hey, yeah, this person actually has the amount of money to send me, because it's all public. You can actually see these things per their wallet, how much money they have in their wallet. So what they're doing is being able to track who has what, who spends what, where they spend it, and so forth. So they're tracking your money. The wallet is supposed to be alphanumeric, meaning numbers and letters. That's how you can identify a wallet. But once you put a name to that wallet, then what the government can do is say, well, this wallet belongs to such and such. So they're basically tracking where you spend your money, when you make trades, who you send the money to, how much they got, and they can track that all within the web, as you can see on the pages, topography examples. So
Wasn't there something that? Oh shoot! I'm sorry, Lionel.
now I'm
I'm
saying,
sorry.
to me, that's what this article is saying.
Go ahead, it's complex.
I was going to say, wasn't there something that we covered? It was maybe a few months back, but it was about how Amazon was basically able to identify a customer if they bought something with a crypto. I'm trying to remember. It goes. They have basically had a method or a way of identifying people who bought something autonomous.
Data science. We covered that on Data Science Hangout.
Yeah.
So with data science, they're able to aggregate all of this data from these advertising, as well as cookies in your browser and all other forms of tracking capabilities on your desktop or your phone. And they were able to aggregate all of that data into a data lake, and then in that data lake, a data scientist or a data analyst goes in and makes use of that data, and pairing these points together, these pinpoints together, based on IP, based on what kind of device you use, what kind of browser, as well as the timing, dates, time. All of these little factors matter in order to build that sort of image. To put it simple, they basically added legitimacy to the data itself by connecting all these data points, and that's what they were able to do to determine whether or not you paid through a token or crypto or whatever it was. So yeah, I want to answer I'll answer so TV84's question. What y'all think of JP Morgan hopping on board? I think JP Morgan hopping on board was more of a catfishing the industry. They really don't have a coin. It's really just a it's not real. It's not a legitimate coin. It's just they said they have a coin, but there's no way for you to actually have access to it. So
Right. It's a interim of trade within JP Morgan. So it's like Chuck E. Cheese. You play the game, you put your real money in the game, and you get tickets out. The tickets are JP Morgan's coin, and you use those tickets to buy a prize. That's what it is. It's an in-house coin. That's or a crypto coin, whatever you want to use. It's just in-house. It only works
it's
in
domestic.
house. Huh?
It's domestic.
Right.
All right, I want to get to this next article. The AI talent gap. Locating global data science centers. Good artificial intelligence talent is hard to find. The talent pool for anyone with deep expertise in modern artificial intelligence technique is terribly thin. More and more companies are committing to data and artificial intelligence as their differentiator. The early adopters will quickly find difficulty in determining which data science expertise meets their needs and the AI talent. If you're not Google, Facebook, Netflix, Amazon, or Apple, good luck. With the popularity of AI, pockets of expertise are emerging around the world. For a firm that needs AI expertise to advance its digital strategy, finding these data science hubs becomes increasingly important. In this article, we look at the initiatives different countries are pushing in the race to become AI leaders, and we examine existing and potential data science centers. It seems as though every country wants to become a global AI power. With the Chinese government pledging billions of dollars in artificial intelligence funding, other countries don't want to be left behind. In Europe, France plans to invest 1.5 billion euros in artificial intelligence research over the next 4 years, while Germany has universities joining forces with corporations such as Porsche, Bosch, and Daimler to collaborate on artificial intelligence research. Even Amazon, with a contribution of 1.25 million euros, is collaborating in the AI efforts in Germany's Cyber Valley around the city of Stuttgart. Not one to be left behind, the UK pledged $300 million on AI research as well. Other countries to commit money to AI are Singapore, which committed $150 million, and Canada, which not only committed 125 million, but also has large data science hubs in Toronto and Montreal. Yoshua Bengio, one of the fathers of deep learning, is from Montreal, the city with the biggest group of AI researchers in the world. Toronto has a breed that naturally attracts artificial intelligence money. Data scientists worldwide examining a variety of sources. Data science professionals are spread across the regions where we would expect.
Wait, Mike, I think you bored out there, man.
In English, we expect most of its members to come from English-speaking countries. However, it still gives us an insight as to which countries have higher representation. I just want to click on this real quick. If I can just blow this up. This is important. If you all can actually see this or it's actually legible, let me know in the chat.
Yeah, you can see it.
Africa has, you see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. 19 out of the 55 countries in Africa are actually data science hubs.
So that's about a good, what, 38%?
That's just what they're finding right now, and this is whenever they took it, right?
Right. Of the entire continent.
Just about all of the emerging countries in Africa have some form of data science hub.
Right.
It becomes difficult to determine AI hubs without classifying talents by levels. One example of this is India. Despite the large number of data science professionals, many of them are employed in low-skilled roles such as data labeling or in processing. So what would be considered a data science hub? The graphics below defines a hub by the number of advanced AI professionals in the country. The countries shown here are AI talent working in companies such as Google, Baidu, Apple, and Amazon. However, this omits a large group of talent that is not hired by these types of countries. Matching the previous graph with a study conducted by Element AI, we see some commonalities, but also we see some new hubs emerging. The same talent centers remain, but more countries are highlighted on the map. Element AI's approach consisted of analyzing LinkedIn profiles, factoring in participation in conferences and publication, and weighing skills highly. Let me see if I can click on this. Yeah, this is actually really good because the total AI talent in the United States is over 9,000. I think we're like the leader at this point, but you see 3 countries in Africa, which is South Africa, if I remember correctly, if that's what I'm looking at, and I want to say that's Morocco up there. It might be Morocco, but yeah, it says USA serves as the hub for a largely global phenomenon and has 10,000 open positions.
I honestly think there's more than that.
AI positions?
Mm-hmm.
Well, this is based on the data they collected.
Oh, okay.
So this is actually a really good article. I don't really want to bore you anymore with all of the numerics and statistics, but we did a hangout some time ago on the Black Tech Hangout. We talked about data science, artificial intelligence, and what you need to actually go into this. If you guys want to know more about artificial intelligence and data science and in reference to Black people, then go back and check our archives from a few months ago. We talked about that on the Black Tech Hangout for artificial intelligence, data science, as well as machine learning. These jobs, I'll just give you a quick analysis. These jobs are paying $100,000 bare minimum in places like Chicago, in places like Atlanta, in places like Raleigh, North Carolina, and especially places like DC and Boston, because in New York, because those are big tech hubs. And you can do these jobs remote, so you don't actually have to be in the office.
Yeah, these are the types of positions where, you know, if you've got the credentials, you can negotiate that remote angle on the job. In most cases, work from home.
Yeah, I know. If you can find that the link to the archive and drop that in the chat, that would be great.
Right. I was on Udacity looking at. I'll drop the link to Udacity too, looking at their School of Artificial Intelligence. And you were saying the Black Tech Talk we did when?
That had to be like a.
That was gosh, wasn't that like mid-December?
Yeah, that was December.
Yeah, mid-December, I think it was.
Yeah, I'll drop this link for the Udacity School of Artificial Intelligence, and I'll go for the Black Tech Talk.
All right, let's get to the next article. All right, this one is from discovermagazine.com. Researchers create rat cyborgs that people control with their minds. I'll just come right out and say it. Scientists have created human-controlled rat cyborgs. Lest you think this is some media sensationalism at work, here's the actual title of the paper under discussion, which came out last week in Scientific Reports. Human mind control of rat cyborgs' continuous locomotion with wireless brain-to-brain interface. That pretty much says it all. Some of this tech, such as brain-to-brain interfaces, BBIs, and rat cyborgs, is nothing new in science. So in a way, this just a small step in an already existing race. But put another way, people are controlling rat cyborgs with their freaking brains now. Here's the deal. BBIs are themselves based on stringing together BMIs, or brain-machine interfaces. These already exist and present a cool way for people to control prosthetics or other devices. Apparently, they can also function the other way around. Instead of a brain controlling a device, a machine can alter brain patterns or important tactile information back to the brain, as the studies authors put it. So BMIs allow for mechanically controlling others' brains. In effect, it works like this. A human has movement-related thoughts, which an EEG picks up and transfers to a computer. The computer translates that signal into, quote, control instructions, which get wirelessly beamed into the simulator on the back of the rat, and then into its brain via electrodes, which is, by the way, now a rat cyborg because of this cybernetic parts. The rat then responds to the instructions by actually doing them. All of this tech exists, but for some reason, very few previous studies have explored BBIs across different brains, the author writes. So they fixed that with a very real actual experiment that involved humans wirelessly controlling rat cyborgs through mazes. I can't stress enough how real this is, or how often the authors use the phrase rat cyborg in their peer-reviewed scientific paper.
I'm getting a lot of ideas.
Yeah. The the researchers, all from Jiangxing University in China, explained that they wanted a system that worked nearly instantaneously and with high accuracy, due to a living creature's agility and self-consciousness. And apparently, that's what they got. Quote, with the interface, or our manipulators were able to mind control a rat cyborg to smoothly complete maze navigation tasks, the author writes, almost gloating. The human controller was non-evasively hooked into the BBI. There, we're thinking about moving their left or right arms would command the rat to turn in those directions, and blinking corresponded to forward. The study used 6 rat cyborgs well trained and previously prepared for such control. The final part of the system involved a camera showing the rat's real-time reactions, allowing the human controller to get instant visual feedback. At first, the maze was simple, a multi-arm set of tubes that met in the middle, like the spokes of a wheel. The idea was to use it to practice commanding the rat through turns. Then the maze got more complex with tight turns, multiple levels, and a specific prescribed path. The rat cyborgs handled well overall, with improved control over time. 2 of the rats apparently performed flawlessly. This is amazing.
Yo.
For people, this is amazing. And you know what? We went over there's a program on EDX where you can get your degree in neuroscience. So let me, and for those who want to finish reading this, the link is in the docket and description beneath the video. But I want to make sure that I actually pull up the EDX.
Yeah, I'm trying to check my imagination right now, man. You could be just controlling all kind of shit, dude, just by thinking about it. If you really wanted to go there.
I know you have anything.
That's like a whole other discussion, man. Altogether.
I want to hear, just one idea complex have. You know, because I was thinking, because I was listening, I was like, wow, that's pretty advanced for what they were talking about. Kind of like straight out the gate advanced. So yeah.
Because now you're talking about from human interaction to artificial intelligence computers driving rats.
Real animals, and yeah, that's not, dude. That see, okay, see there. All right, we're on the same page, Mike.
Now, I believe I got the correct IT talk. It was the cybersecurity and data science discussion.
Yeah, it might be in there. It might be in there. But people listening to this should actually take this very seriously. This is a new emerging industry, and it's going to be around for the next 20, 30 years.
Easy.
And you gotta, the other part to all of this too, and this is kind of where my imagination is kind of going wild. It's the hackware side of this, right? It's the rogue hacker dudes who can cook up something extremely diabolical with some tech like this. So I'm saying you're tapping into rats, and then you're just controlling them on about like the way you think. But what if you engineered some killer algorithms, right? Dialed in what's the term of it is when you dial in, say, like the steering on an RC car or something like that, what that term is called. And let's just say you threw on like an Oculus Rift.
You mean trim adjusting?
Yeah, trim. Yeah. So you're basically fine tuning, like when you think right, it literally will cut right. Like you can cut angles around a curve. Like you kind of fine tune the software that links the two brains, if you will, right, to make the movements more precise. And you might even incorporate like an Oculus Rift VR unit right? To literally like see right through the rat's eyes or something like that. You know, it's almost as if it's like this is almost like some Avatar type shit.
That's exactly what.
That's where I'm trying to go with this. Yep.
Now you're talking about, you know, a pigeon or some other form of bird that has massive levels of flight, and using it to deliver medicine or something to that effect. Just all types of harnessing the environment and harnessing human Mother Nature for your own specific purposes.
What would be the term that you would call that? That would be like, it would, I wouldn't necessarily, that would bio, wouldn't actually be violent. Like what kind of term would you give that for? Like basically cyborgifying nature.
Cybernetic society.
Natural cybernetics.
Something to that effect.
Yeah. God, man. It's a slippery slope.
So it's not uncommon that, you know, if a bird shits on your car, then you probably got an idea as to why it shitted on your car.
Because I was really mad at you.
Yeah. Yeah. Somebody had it in for you.
Right. Logic needed said, I remember them controlling bugs with a remote control. Modern day Beastmaster. Yeah, I mean, we've come a long way from that.
So now you tie that in with something like an Oculus Rift on your face, and you're basically seeing in real time what the animal is doing while giving it commands. And there was a movie about this before.
You're not talking about like not Avatar, but something.
No, it was a movie. Not Killer Bees. It's gonna bug me, man. But anyways, that I'm gonna drop the link in the
Yeah, let people swallow that one, man.
Yeah, because that's huge. That's not something you can ignore. Harvard actually has a program. Let me share my screen real quick. So what you're looking at right now is my screen that has from edx.org and fundamentals of neuroscience. So you can actually get a certificate in this from an accredited university, which is Harvard. And it only costs $267.30. And introductory to neuroscience. So what you'll learn is the fundamentals of bioelectricity, how you can do neuroscience in your home, how neurons communicate with each other, how sensory perception works in the brain, and the basic anatomy of functional areas of the brain, which is what you'll learn.
So learn this, and then you're on your way to making BBIs.
Yeah, I'm glad you all said your imagination on this, because it's one thing, and topics like this, it's one thing to read it and say it's amazing, which it is, but to give people a visual of how amazing it is, and then put the classes of where you can actually go and get some training in this, and it's not expensive at all. It's a pair of mics plus a baby pair of mics, so it's not expensive at all. It's easier than most people may think. Don't be scared of this. We showing you all.
Don't be scared to mentally control animals.
Well, I didn't know.
Well, not just that. I mean, imagine having the ability to, you know, not even open up your cell phone to hail a Uber ride or a Lyft ride. Imagine you just kind of blink a few times and then a ride just immediately shows up because your brain is connected to this 5G network that is transmitting all of this information, all these thoughts back into the atmosphere, into these cloud networks.
See there?
And then those cars are connected to the cloud network through a 5G connection, and all of a sudden, you know what? I don't feel like waiting for this person. I need to go. I need an Uber right now, and that's, you know, some car just strolls up and the doors open up for you.
But okay, what about private cloud networks, right? Where you've got a whole different level of thought transference going on, right? Unbeknownst to, you know, people in the general public or society. I mean, so I mean, there's a slippery slope that we start to go down, man. We start to really peel back the layers of what the implications of the stuff, you know, like Super Trish put in it. Yeah, exactly. This opens up an entirely different discussion. He's damn right. Like,
right, neuroscience, machine learning, artificial intelligence, 5G. This all of these components are involved in this sort of emerging trend. And the link that I just dropped in the chat actually kind of covers 1/3 of those areas. And 5G, and machine learning, artificial intelligence, you can find that on the same exact site.
yeah, Nate also said Elon Musk talked about public neural network on Joe Rogan. Yeah, he sure did. When he and Joe, he's basically sparked a J on the show, and him and Joe Rogan, you know, chopped it up over a joint. And Elon really did. He peeled back some of the layers, but I mean, I think we're really kind of digging into some of the stuff that he was more hesitant to talk about, you know. And as somebody who's like the CEO of Tesla, yeah, you don't want to sound, you know, tinfoil hatish, but the fact remains that this is the frontier that lies at our doorstep.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and he's keenly aware of this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because they implemented some functionality inside their Tesla operating system. Mm-hmm. If I remember correctly, I think we went over that in the article some weeks ago. Mm-hmm. New operating system update for artificial intelligence and neuroscience. I think they call it neural networks or something like that.
Yep, neural networks. Matter of fact, there's a brother out of Australia. He has a channel on YouTube called Cold Fusion TV. You should really check it out. This dude does like A-level stuff. And he actually, I think maybe like about a month and a half ago, man, he did a real in-depth video on neural networks. Intel has basically they've come up with a mobile neural network where you just use a USB dongle. It's some real deep stuff, man. You can, I'll dig it up, but yeah, there's a lot of information out here on neural networks, and this is just stuff we're at the precipice of it now. So,
yeah, I think Samsung actually has a patent on their Galaxy phones that allows you to scroll up pages using your eyes. And if I remember correctly, it was in the previous Android build, so we know that's already been implemented.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, you can scroll up and scroll down with your eyes. And that's why, you know, we talked about this before with Apple. You know, what new product can they come out with that's going to be revolutionary? Well, when you have things like that, patents in place like the ability to scroll up pages with your eyes and casting technology from the various manufacturers that we discussed last night on Information Man Show's Hangout, you know, BlackBerry and Palm and Google all have these, Nokia have all this casting technology available inside, or these casting technology patents in place that allow for a watch to actually pitch a screen up in midair, basically like a hologram. Hologram technology already exists, so it's just a matter of miniaturizing it to something like a phone, or even some you know, Kamoy beads like you saw in Black Panther, and then using your neuroscience capabilities on a 5G network to open doors and things of that nature. I mean, Amazon already has cashless stores, right? You walk in, you buy something, and
Amazon Go store.
Yeah, Amazon Go. So where you see the pieces all starting to come together, the tea leaves are starting to show that this is where we're going, and this is happening right now. So you give technology the cycle of every 3 to 5 years, something new is coming out. The next evolution is coming out. Well, by 2022, we should see the next step from where we are right now.
That next one is going to be huge, though, because it's predicated on an entirely new data platform. So, I mean, it's got we have to kind of perceive the next sort of new cycle actually is sort of like a leap and a bound from where we're at right now.
Right.
I just posted a link in the top. It's from the Cold Fusion YouTube channel. Top 5 uses of neural networks.
Cool. Cool. I didn't even include the military aspect of this, where you're talking about robot tanks commanding the battlefield with some mad general sitting inside the Pentagon or something like that.
Oh my God! Like I said, dude, it's the slippery slope.
Yeah. You know, if I want a bird scooter, you know, I just kind of like snap my fingers, and that's, you know, when it's a self-balancing scooter just pulls up, and I don't even have to put my hands on the handlebar. I just ride it like a skateboard, and I just stand upright.
You just stand on it, man.
Hey,
yeah.
And while you're riding, look at the handlebars and say "Made by Complex."
I mean, if I'm gonna do it, man, I'm gonna do it big.
Mm-hmm. All right, next one is from LiveScience.com. What will happen to the Opportunity rover's dead body on Mars? NASA's Opportunity rover has died on Mars. The little solar-paneled robot apparently ran out of battery during the Red Planet's awesome 2018 dust storm. And after one last attempt to contact it, NASA has concluded yesterday, February 13th, that the far-off explorer is no more. Many human artifacts wouldn't last very long beyond our protective biosphere. As Live Science reported previously, solar radiation has likely shredded the Tesla Roadster Elon Musk launched into space last year. But Tesla's Roadsters have a lot of organic fibers and plastics in their bodies. Mars rovers are made of tougher stuff. Jeff Morse, a professor of planetary science at the University of Tennessee, Knoxville, a member of the Opportunity team, cautioned that he's not an expert in the rover's engineering. But he said that Opportunity does have some plastic bits that might eventually break down under the glare of the sun. Its insulation, for example. Quote, but by and large, I think it'll look pretty much as we left it. When and if astronauts ever do come across its resting place, Morse told Live Science, it will probably be pretty dusty though, he added. That's assuming that the astronauts do make it to Mars in the relatively near future, the next century or two, for example. Over much longer periods, Morse said, dust will settle over on the rover Opportunity. Opportunity functioned as long as it did because regular Martian winds tended to routinely blow dust off of its body. But over long periods, it's a bit of an open question whether the dust or the wind will win it out. Quote, I doubt it will end up buried in a mound, though, he added. What about the millions of years in the future? On Earth, anything old and dead and sitting in one place on the surface tends to eventually end up underground. But that's thanks to the effects of water and plate tectonics, Morse said. Factors that aren't present in the same way on Mars. Quote, over the very long term, you're going to get impacts that knock up ejector from where they hit. And that ejector will very gradually resurface on the planet and bury things that were on the surface, he said. If opportunity were to be left on Mars, aliens who landed there millions and millions of years from now would find the rover somewhere in the rock record, much like paleontologists find dinosaur fossils here on Earth. But NASA is hoping to send humans to Mars one day, and there are dreams of establishing some sort of human settlement there. Steve Squires, a professor of astronomy at Cornell University in Ithaca, New York, and head of the Opportunity Science mission, made clear during NASA's press conference announcing the rover's death that the agency has no plans to bring the rover back to Earth. Why would we spend the money bringing material back from Mars when we already know what exactly it's made of, he asked. That said, Morse added, when humans do settle Mars, it's not unreasonable to imagine they might make some effort to recover and preserve opportunity. Perhaps it could end up in a museum, or the region explored by the rover might end up as a national park. Of course, if humans never get there, opportunity might not make it into the fossil record at all. It's at least plausible that, given millions of years, a meteor could strike it directly and smash it to bits. What I get from this, is that there's an opportunity to do search and rescue missions.
I was gonna go there, and I was actually going to say that I personally don't believe, I don't believe what's being said. The reason being is that, you know, there are other space agencies that are out trying to data collect. There are other entities out there that are looking to get information to do what the rover did plus some. Right. So if there's an opportunity to snag the rover up, you know, I would think that it would be in NASA's best interest to go and recover it for themselves if it's in a non-op status. You know, you leave something out there, you know, it's got software, it's got data that's been recorded, it's got all these different things. So, you know, it would behoove me anyway to go and reclaim my property that has all the data that I would like before somebody else did, or someone else out there did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we went over this before. That's salvage work, going out and salvage material, and like Complex was saying, salvage material. Although the article said it being bombarded by space debris and these rays, they may not work, but who knows? With all of these objects in low Earth orbit, they don't work. You can salvage those. You can go to whatever moons or planets that, early Earth exploration sent objects to explore and left them there. That's a business.
It is. You're talking about a aerospace version of AAA. Same way they change the tire on the side of the road for pedestrian or for motorists. Then what happens is, in the case of a rover that stops working, NASA may not see like the article said, why spend millions of dollars bringing it back? Well, what if I can do it for less than $100,000? I might be inclined to do something like that if I'm a private agency.
Right. The same, and what you just said explains what's going on right now. It used to cost so much money to go into space for private companies going to space. Now you can share that expense with and go to SpaceX and do it. Mm-hmm. We see versions of what you just said right now. So anybody out there saying, "Oh, we can't do it," no, you're wrong. We can, and this is gonna happen.
Right, you're not sending a human being up there to get it. You're sending a tow truck.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Tow truck with artificial intelligence and neuroscience. You basically blink your eyes and it hoists it up on the back of its wrecker.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we spoke to this, was it last week, when we talked about, you know, a good portion of the, the the space development work, not necessarily exploration, but we're talking about the actual stuff that's done on terrestrial masses in space is going to be done by unmanned equipment and machinery.
Yep. And this ties into the machine learning, the artificial intelligence, robotics discussions that we had earlier in the show today. All this ties together. You keep listening to us, it's going to sink into that thick mind, that thick skull, one way or another. We showed you where you can go on edX. I put the link in the chat pertaining to Udacity. These jobs will need people in the positions to do them. We're showing you.
Well, I wouldn't say jobs, but I would say opportunities to get involved in the industry, right? So now you're talking about creating your own startup just based off of that alone.
Hey, opportunities to do big things.
Well, think about Sanford and Son. I mean, they made a whole show about a black man picking up trash.
You know what?
Picking up junk.
Hey, you know what? I was just thinking about that, but I didn't want to say it. I didn't want to take it there. I was literally
The Galactic Sanford and Sons, man.
I was literally just thinking about that.
Yeah, you're talking about like homeboys in outer space with a pickup truck, with a quarter-ton pickup truck, throwing junk in the back of their spaceship and traveling around.
Oh, beat up rovers.
Right.
This is the second day y'all talking about homeboys. I'm gonna go.
Look that show up, man. It was corny as hell, dude. But look it up.
Good. It was a good show because it allowed you.
You to showed up in outer space.
Yeah, it allowed you to imagine.
I don't want to see your Netflix history at all. I would hate to see that thing.
Hey, it's good stuff, man. But this is real stuff. And I'm a big component of humans will be humans, no matter what. You can allow these videos on YouTube to give you the high technical, high brow. Well, this and that. Well, humans is going to be. I'm telling you, humans will be humans. Someone's going to find a way to hitch something onto something and just go around low Earth orbit, picking up stuff. And you're going to sit there like, wow, I could have did that. Come on, help work with us. These are opportunities we're giving you all. Am I the only one to feel like this?
Nope.
You might be the only one that like homeboys in outer space, though.
I'm not gonna lay that down, am I?
No, that or the racing jacket. But
but you know what? We may find somebody racing in outer space across the planets.
Not with that jacket, though. But what I will say is,
come up with my own jacket. I'm gonna do it.
What I will say is that this is a business model I think that should be further explored. You know, the logistics aspect of actually setting up a drone with a winch at the bottom to pick up a rover from the external planet and actually lifting it, putting it into his cavity and taking off.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of at this point it's a finders keepers game, because for the most part, if they abandon it and no one claims it after 30 days, like a wallet, it's yours.
Wait, Christian said Homeboys in Outer Space was an awesome show. So Lionel's got a rider.
Oh, well, then again, he drives a Subaru. But...
He drives a Subaru.
Thank you, Christian. I appreciate that, brother. Appreciate that, brother.
All right, we got one more.
Okay.
All right, this one is from SputnikNews.com. Taiwan announces new phase of space program, hopes for moon mission. The ambitious project, expected to cost $25 billion, and I guess Taiwanese money, which would be $814 million, would be headed by Taiwan's National Applied Research Laboratories and the National Space Organization, NISPO. Minister of Science and Technology Chen Liang-ji said Wednesday, according to Taiwan News. 6 of the new generation satellites new generation of satellites will be high-resolution optical remote sensing satellites, which NISPO Director General Lin Chang Liang boasted would increase the revisit rate on images from once every 2 days to 2 or 3 times per day. Taipei Times noted. The remainder of the program includes, two ultra high resolution smart optics remote sensing satellites and two synthetic aperture radar satellites, the latter of which can use active radar to see through cloud cover, Asian Times noted. Lin further noted that the agency hoped to develop a satellite capable of orbiting the moon. However, since Taiwan lacks its own rocket program, all of these satellites have to hitch rides into space on foreign spacecraft. Private space firm SpaceX has provided such services in the past, but considering the country has been trying to get SpaceX to launch its Formosat 7 microsatellite constellation for 2 years, the goal of a new launch every 18 months is indeed ambitious. The space company says its Falcon Heavy rocket, which only made its maiden flight in February 2018, needs more testing. This hasn't stopped the U.S. Air Force from signing a $130 million contract from SpaceX to carry a satellite on the rocket in 2020, which it penned last June, Sputnik reported. Taiwan only launched its first domestically made satellite 2 years ago. The Formosat 5 launched on a SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket in August 2017. Reported. So Taiwan is actually a space.
Okay, so this is okay. So, you know, just like how we mentioned on Information Man show last night, how one venue bleeds into the other, right? Because now we're talking geopolitics and we're talking about China and Taiwan relations. You know, you can, this right here is an indicator as to why unification talks aren't maybe what the Chinese would like for them to be, because Taiwan has its own designs, right, on its own, you know, on its own, what's the word I'm looking for? Its own independence, right? One of the signs of a nation really taking a step forward towards its own independence is not only the announcement of a space program, but an active pursuit of it that lets the world know how serious you are.
I know. You have anything you want to add to that?
I agree. And yeah, we talked, the things we talked about do intersect with each other. You may not see it blatantly, but it's there. And once you listen to us and we point those subtle ways that interconnect, then you will start to see a bigger portion of the still smaller, but you still see a bigger portion of the picture and see how things intermingle with each other.
Well, let's look at what the article stated. I mean, let's just take some key data points, right? So you've got Taiwan, you've got China, and you've got SpaceX, which is a U.S. firm. You have a U.S. firm that's based in a country that's in a trade war with China, which is diametrically opposed to Taiwan and its own intentions to be independent. So again, this is where the geopolitical aspects overlap with business, overlap with space, overlap with technology.
Well, don't forget that the United States is the only one that actually recognizes Taiwan. So
right.
Just about every other country does not recognize them. So they have no other choice but to actually go do business with SpaceX, because that's their only recognition. Unless they plan on building their own rockets, and they possibly could build a mini rocket, or they could borrow one from Japan. Although their relationship with Japan is not as friendly as it is with the United States. But for the most part, Taiwan is very self-sufficient. There's a lot of PC technology products that actually came out of Taiwan during the 80s that made the PC industry what it is today. Very skilled very knowledgeable country, nation state that is self-sustaining, just based on intellectual human capital. But looking at the article, it says they're going to spend $800 million on their space program. Now you break that down per capita of the nation state. I think there's maybe like 10 or 12 million.
It's not a lot of people there.
Yeah, let me pull up the numbers, make sure I got it right. Yeah, it's 23 million people there. So, because they have multiple islands too.
Mm-hmm.
When you take that all into consideration, and you look at $800 million as a nation state, that's not a lot of money. We spend that kind of money just on frivolous, road repairs and things of that nature. It's just a lot of, budgetary spending that gets done that's wasted money for the most part. We spent $5 billion in Syria and didn't get anything. But to the point of a space program, now you're talking about putting in less than $1 billion. Now, we covered an article some months ago about space startups in China getting 20.
That was like 40.
Huh?
When they were the ones that crowdfunded like $40 million or something like that?
Yeah, $40 million. So now it's going down.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's going down from 800 million down to $20 million. And now, if the trajectory is right, every 18 months, you may be able to get your own space startup off the ground for less than $1 million. How many black men or how many black people are really down to launch their own research laboratory space program for less than $1 million? And what could you do with less than $1 million? Let's say $500,000.
Okay.
How far can you go with $500,000? Okay, you might have to eat ramen noodles for a few months. So be it. You might have to eat, some tuna fish, on the weekends. You have to make some sacrifices in order for all of this to take place.
Man, dudes are already eating like that already.
Well,
like, you know what I'm saying? Look, I think the idea, just the idea of space exploration in and of itself,
mm-hmm.
right? I mean, there's so many like things that we withhold from ourselves, right? Already willingly. Okay. But something like this, where we're talking about the idea or the notion of exploring space, right? Doing things where, and again, you have to engage the imagination at this point, because we don't have a culture of like tech startups, space startups, something like that. You see, so when you're going to pursue this, you have to have sort of like an ecosystem, like different types of venue or different types of companies within the same venue that do different things. So there's sort of like a closed loop, right? One entity's doing this, one entity's doing this, one entity's doing that, and the sum game total goal is going to be, this over here.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, if we can get to that point, right, and understand that, a lot of what it is that we will willingly sacrifice for today, right, doesn't net you, like there's a lot of bullshit that that black folks will largely pursue, right, and in pursuit of that, they'll go without certain things. See, so if we're going to pursue something, like, I think we can go without certain things, or we can, eat some ramen noodles for a little bit, with the idea that what we're ultimately doing here is we're going to be sending something up into space.
Yeah. And then we have to we have to keep reducing it down, okay, and run a lean budget. The article mentions that they're putting up a microsatellite through SpaceX. A microsatellite, for those of you listening, a microsatellite is anything that's around the size of a champagne bottle.
Mm-hmm.
Champagne bottle with a few antennas and a small battery in it. and some kind of satellite radio embedded into it.
I am going to post a link
Yep.
to a channel, and this is one of my favorite channels on YouTube. And this guy, he builds scaled versions of SpaceX rockets. Okay. And, you know, you use things like this to send stuff that Mike is talking about up into low orbit.
Well, even when you want to take, you know, and I know people looking at this saying, we can never do anything like that. Actually, you can. A lot of this information is available at your public library. You can rent out books or take out books from the public library, and that information is there. They have a whole entire aerospace engineering section in nuclear science and things of that nature. You can start your or you can get a degree in planetary planetary research just off of the books that are available at your public library. So what I'm saying is, we would have to do the due diligence. We would have to do the work.
But you know, Mike, and in addition to that, though, I mean, dude, it's like, okay, if you, and you'll have to pardon me here for just breaking my rank here for just a second, but you know, if your feeds weren't filled up with a bunch of streams about black bullshit, okay, and they're actually filled up with content that's made by people. Like for the channel I just dropped in the chat, for example, BPS Space. Okay, just what you were just talking about. In addition to getting the information in public sources that are readily available to you and that are free, you also have sources on platforms like YouTube where there's like dudes who spend hours basically explaining it all to you, what they're doing. This dude does live demonstrations of him building rocket fuselages, building the PC boards out, telling you about the software, you know, troubleshooting, talking about, like, he'll do an entire discussion just about the failures, right? And then analyzing the failures, figuring out what we did wrong. So here's what we're going to do this next time around. You know what I mean? There's also where again, it's going to be the same thing that you do when you sit down and listen to someone talk about a certain YouTuber who got pregnant. Okay, much like how you're going to sit down and listen to that shit, you might want to just sit down and listen to a guy who just built a goddamn rocket in his apartment. You might learn something.
Right.
Ran over.
Right. Is Lionel still here?
Hello? Yeah,
he's there.
Lionel, would you be able to find that space hangout that we did? I think there's quite. If you could find two of the space hangouts that we did.
The first ones we did.
The first one. I think there's a particular one where we talked about like satellites and stuff like that. If you could find either one of those, man, just drop it in the chat so that people can actually refer back to the archive.
That one was like the one. Oh god, that was probably like around like the 3rd or
July.
4th.
July.
Wait, this for space?
Yeah, space was in July.
Oh, okay, yeah, that would have been like, yeah, I think that was probably like maybe like it was like the early ones, like the 3rd or 4th one we did.
Yeah, because it was when it was on a Saturday, right?
Yeah, we did that on a Saturday. We had a whole entire hangout dedicated to just that.
Right. All right, roger that.
Yeah. Because I think we're going to do it again, and this time we're going to include, just as a refresher as to, for 2019, I think we need to revise things every few months because things change.
Cool.
The fornication fallout is exactly what I'm referring to.
Say what?
Oh,
Dusty Gate. I think they call it. It's kind of like.
Don't do it.
They call it Dusty Gate, similar to Nixon fallout.
I have no idea what y'all talking about, but let's keep moving.
All right, this one is from CNBC.com. Rocket startup relativity quadruples resources in a year as former SpaceX leaders. This is just what we were talking about. And what you're looking at is a 3D printer. This is a picture of a 3D printer.
Oh, it's relativity. Yes.
Yep. So
Yes.
let me read this real quick. Thanks to an influx of capital in the past decade, there are more than 100 young rocket companies estimated to be racing to orbit. Keep that in mind. 100 startups hoping to be among the first to state demand from a new market of smaller aircraft. Relativity Space fits squarely among those aspiring rocket ventures, but with a twist. The 3-year-old startup is building its rockets almost entirely using 2 stories tall 3D printers, unlike any others in the world. While the company is still working towards that first launch, the past year has been seen relativity pile up talent and resources. Relativity's terrain rocket is aimed at the middle of the launch. Is aimed at the middle of the launch market in the weight class between SpaceX large Falcon 9 rocket and Rocket Lab's small Electron rocket. While both of those rocket makers have reached orbit multiple times, Relativity's first launch is not expected for around not expected for about 2 years. And Relativity's valuation of about $100 million using traditional venture capital metrics is a fraction of Rocket Lab's more than $1 billion and SpaceX $30.5 billion. But a year ago, Relativity had about 10,000 square feet of space, 14 employees, and one enormous world-class 3D printer. Today, Relativity has more than 60,000. This is it's grammatically wrong. That's why I'm having a hard time reading this. Today, Relativity has more than 60,000 square feet of real estate, 64 employees, and is putting the finishing touches. That's what it should say. Finishing touches on 3 additional 3D printers, each larger and more advanced than the company's first printer. Among those new staffers are veterans of technology giants SpaceX, Blue Origin, Tesla, Google's Waymo, Virgin Orbit, and more.
Wow, wait, you have people bouncing from Blue Origin already?
Probably contractors.
Damn.
Well, at this point, our team is just ridiculously legendary. Relativity CEO Tim Ellis told CNBC, "These are literally the best people in the industry, period." Relativity added David Geiger as vice president of launch vehicle development. He's essentially in charge of building Relativity's rocket, and Tim Buzzer as a full-time advisor. Both Geiger and Buzzer were with SpaceX when the company was less than 50 employees and building its first rocket, the Falcon 1. They also knew Relativity co-founder Jordan Noon while at SpaceX. Quote, "I'm really excited to really dive in with the team and get back into building a launch company, as well as to leverage those lessons learned from Falcon 1, from Dragon, as well and help with the team push the boundaries." This thing's so poorly written. Relativity.
This thing.
All the articles seem to be that way. Relativity also recently brought on Josh Brost, a 9-year veteran at SpaceX who joins the startup as vice president of government business development. Ellis said that Brost secured over $3 billion in contract with the U.S. government and commercial entities while with SpaceX.
Can we stop right there? Commercial entities. Commercial entities. That's a very vague term.
Commercial entities. Yeah. Commercial entities could be somebody like farming, agriculture farming, and things of that nature. Need satellite technologies to handle their farms. But let me finish reading this real quick. Quote, it's really the 1-2 punch, Bross, the person that was winning billions of dollars in contracts, and Geiger, the person executing billions of dollars in contracts. The company's Terran rocket is priced in the middle of the market at $10 million per launch, but is also entirely printed using additive manufacturing with less than 1,000 individual parts. Traditionally, rockets have somewhere around 100,000 or more individual parts. Relativity's 3D printers will be able to manufacture a Terran rocket in less than 60 days. Traditional machining methods means current rockets take about a year and a half or more to build. Relativity is aiming for its first orbital launch in less than 2 years from now, and in January secured a contract with the U.S. Air Force to build and operate at launch Complex 16 at Cape Canaveral Air Force Station in Florida. Additionally, the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office recently granted Relativity a key patent for, quote, real-time adaptive control of additive manufacturing processes using machine learning. Quote, the grant of this patent is a recognition of how our autonomous 3D metal printing technology can quickly and intuitively optimize rocket production on Earth and other planets, Noon said in the statement.
Wait, where? What did he say? Where?
Quote, the
giant Earth
grant
and other planets.
The grant of this patent is a recognition of how our autonomous 3D metal printing technology can quickly and intuitively optimize rocket production on Earth and other planets, meaning that the two-story facility can actually be, I guess, ported somewhere to another planet and actually do the manufacturing.
So Mike, let me just get this straight. You mean to tell me in their business plan, right, when they wrote up the business plan, like their whole idea was to also do this shit other places? Okay, interesting.
So you're talking about something on the moon, for that matter, right? And build everything there, and then launch.
Right.
Use the moon as a launching pad.
Right. So just in case people think we're absolutely crazy for talking what we're talking about, this company right here, they plan to do this. That's the whole point of kind of why they're doing what they're doing in terms of doing the 3D printing method in terms of manufacturing, because they plan to do it elsewhere.
Right. You get a rocket that's big enough to carry all that payload up there, and it can kind of assemble itself, right?
There you go.
Like Lego. Like right. Lego kind of snap into each other. You have anything you want to add, Lino?
Yeah, we talked about Relativity and their metal 3D printing a couple months ago. And this is, we're talking about them again. It's this updated version of it. And they're about some serious business. And the price of entry is low. You don't need $2 billion, you know?
No, you don't. Complex, anything else you want to add?
No, I mean that one, that little tidbit right there really kind of rocked my brain. That's all I got.
Right. And just going over some of the details, they said 100 young rocket companies, so startups.
That was the other.
Talked about this.
Yeah.
We talked about this before. 1 in every 3 startups is going to be a space startup. That article is actually pointing to this very thing. Now, if you look at the cost to get in, SpaceX is at $30.5 billion. Rocket Labs is at $1 billion. They're coming in at $100 million. We talked about this in the last article with Taiwan, but Chinese companies are coming in at $20 million.
It's dropping.
So if we're looking at the trajectory of all of this over the last 10 years, every 9 months, it gets cheaper and cheaper considerably. So it goes from 30 billion to 1 billion, and then it goes down less to 100 million in the next 3 years. And then because this company is 2 years old, so you're talking 2016-ish. SpaceX is around 2008-ish, right? If you're looking at the trajectory correctly, then, and if it plays out well, then what we're looking at here is 100. You know, we covered an article last year about Chinese startups, space startups coming in at $20 million. Okay, so the next one is going to be down significantly from 100 to 20. That's $60 million less. Then now you're talking less than $1 million for a startup. In the next 2020, by 2020, you're going to see less than $1 million needed to fund your startup. This is where we are right now.
No arguments here, man.
And they hired the best people. With less, you know, was it like 50 employees or something like that? They have the best people. Everybody from SpaceX, Blue Origin, Tesla, Google.
Just so you guys know, Blue Origin is the space firm that Jeff Bezos overseas, and I thought it was interesting. He got people bouncing from there already.
Well, I think a lot of times these people do come on as contractors.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So it's not uncommon. You may have like maybe 10 or 20 employees, and everybody else is just a contractor. But they're a particularly unique company because they're using 3D printing. As with other places, they're kind of still using human mechanics and engineers and pipe fitters and welders and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And they're probably using a lot of CAD, right? Inside this company, Relativity, they get a CAD program, they feed it into the 3D printer, 3D printer spits it all out.
Yep.
All right, let me get to the next one. Maybe we should open up the super chat and we can fund our own startup then.
Hey, you know what? Like if we get to that point, man, then I would say that's what it's used for, like development.
Yeah. Let me get this next one.
Okay.
This one is from entrepreneur.com. Why your next startup should focus on healthcare.
Super Triz.
Yeah. The healthcare job market is experiencing a boom. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, healthcare employment numbers jumped by 42,000 in January, with the industry having added a whopping 368,000 jobs over the previous year. A strong economic foundation has helped this boost, but so I know you got a lot of feedback coming from you.
I'm muted.
New innovations opened up new opportunities, which in turn created more jobs. However, as the healthcare industry continues to grow, so will its expertise, which could become unsustainable if left unaddressed. This might be worrisome to healthcare workers, especially newer ones, but for entrepreneurs looking for a new healthcare entry point via technological innovation, now may be the perfect time to take a chance. Breakdowns exist in the healthcare system, specifically in the efficiency and accuracy of patient care. Blockchain and similarly inclined tech solutions can fill those gaps if any enterprising entrepreneur is willing to jump in. Opportunities, small and large, exist for technology to improve the healthcare system. These are three pressing needs that leaders can address by integrating tech into their business models. One, an improved information repository. For a long time, healthcare providers were siloed and rarely shared data with others, leaving no room for the growth of information ecosystems. For instance, different software standards make it harder for hospitals and emergency medical services to share data. However, if medical personnel could access patient records in real time, they could provide timely treatment and avoid harmful or fatal mistakes. Because data has been siloed for so long, no provider has built a broad repository meant to analyze the correlation of data from a variety of medical sources. A repository powered by artificial intelligence and blockchain could identify anomalies that could lead to the treatment, cure, and prevention of a bevy of diseases. Blockchain, for example, can be the conduit that helps healthcare bring those visions to reality. Right now, analytics decipher big data in order to understand micro data points, which can yield inaccuracies. But because blockchain deals with data assets, that microdata can comes into focus and more accurate outcomes are reached. Blockchain allows healthcare data to be shared in a more secure and transparent way and maintains data integrity to protect it from manipulation. Companies such as Helix are beginning to harness the power of artificial intelligence for just this purpose. Helix uses machine learning to improve drug discovery and help find cures for rare diseases. Research for which is often overlooked and underfunded. This type of repository is also perfect for blockchain, ensuring that data can be disseminated all over the globe safely and easily. Two, better patient engagement. Patient treatment shouldn't begin and end inside the doctor's office. It should start well before that. Technology presents an opportunity for healthcare leaders to develop solutions that improve the entire patient life cycle. The right patient care solution has the potential to boost patient experience, revenue life cycle, and profitability. Some providers are already experimenting with artificial intelligence to streamline the patient experience. Pharmacies are using smart calendar software that knows when patients need to make another visit or refill prescriptions. Some can even call patients to book appointments. AI-driven solutions will only become more necessary as healthcare systems such as the NHS face an increase in patients and drop in qualified employees to handle them. Entrepreneurs should prioritize AI projects that can help patients find the right doctors, hospitals, insurance solutions, and even the right medicine. If a startup can fill this gap, it's a win-win for healthcare providers and their patients. An automated collection of data. Three, according to according to a study by Healthcare Information and Management Systems Society, 86% of healthcare mistakes are administrative. People are often lose health insurance or pay higher prices simply because of inaccurate data collection. Robotic process automation could prevent many of these errors, offering a more accurate solution for collecting, processing, and sharing data. Insurance startups such as Lemonade already used automated data collection to pay out claims almost instantly with significantly fewer errors than traditional people-driven methods. Here again, blockchain offers a chance to create a better way of doing things for entrepreneurs looking to fill these gaps. Blockchain medical records and clinical trial data can provide new levels of security and ensure the integrity of data being collected. The healthcare system is bogged down by data silos and draconian data policies that help neither patients or doctors. As costs rise and patients' demand increases, healthcare companies will be desperate to find innovative and cost efficient solutions that allow effective and efficient patient care. The environment is exactly where tech startups trying to find new ways to use blockchain automation to drive the next big thing can flourish. Lionel, you have anything you want to add to this?
All right. We see with this, healthcare is an industry, and with the technology, so we continuously beat blockchain, artificial intelligence. Interestingly enough, yesterday on Information Man Show, Complex mentioned Lemonade. It's an AI insurance company. You have these two major technologies linking up and making a industry better. The crumbs are everywhere. The crumbs may not be big enough for people to pick up and eat and say, well, yes, these is leading to somewhere, but they're everywhere. You're seeing examples left and right of how these technologies are coming together, both on their own and with other technologies we talk about, to transform industries. We talked about real estate. Now we're talking about healthcare. I'm sure Super Trez has information and can speak on this subject and say, well, you know, what we're saying is right. We see it. We talked about it last night on the Information Man show. So you're seeing these things that's transforming industries. And when they transform these industries will not look the same in tomorrow year. They will not look the same because of these technologies. So that's why we're saying these can hop on these opportunities now. Am I still on? Complex, you got anything? Hello?
Complex already stepped away, but
Oh,
you're still on. So
yeah.
Yeah, we just covered two different types of startups: space startups and healthcare startups. I think that healthcare startups are going to be really, really big. I mean, we talked about this on Information Man show last night, but to put more emphasis behind it is that big hospitals can't afford to stay open. We've had several hospitals shut down. I think hospitals are closing down all over the United States. They can't afford to stay open. They can't afford the facility, the upgrades, the upkeep, and things of that nature. It's making it more difficult. So there has to be a more broader look at how do you deliver medicine at a cost that's above break even, and how do you deliver it in a way where you're leveraging all the emerging tech, blockchain and cryptocurrencies and tokens and 5G and tablets and phones and FaceTime and Skype and all these various methods of communication. You have to kind of leverage that, and you're talking about running lean. So now you're talking about, instead of having multiple doctors, you might have multiple nurses who specialize in certain areas or have to wear one hat and do many different jobs. Now, I think Super Triz can probably speak to this, but he's not available right now. But we definitely need to have a hangout just on healthcare alone as a startup.
Yes, please. And then we talk about, it was the mirror. Remember the mirror we talked about on CES and how it can help you with look at your eyes and your face
to determine whether or not you have pimples and stuff like that.
Right. They can use this and transfer that information to their doctor. Well, they can use that, then transfer whatever information they want their doctors to know. Yeah, remember that. Yeah,
there's a variety of little endpoints that would require, or would not so much require, but will be a part of that piece of infrastructure. Digital infrastructure is what we're referring to now. Now you're talking about a cloud. We're not even using traditional computing anymore. We're talking about computing that we can't even see. You know, we're pulling it up on our smartphone through an app or through a tablet, and we're clicking a few buttons, and we're clicking up, and we're firing up servers, and we're firing up computing power that's going to allow us to triage patients at the lower level. So instead of going to these urgent care facilities, these urban clinics, right, where if you get a cut or a bruise or something like that, you don't have any healthcare insurance and you go straight to that place. Well, what happens when you have a vehicle such as a caravan or something like that, and you have all the necessary EMT or nursing clinical material in your van, clinical inventory in your van, and you pull up to somebody's house based on an app, and you're delivering urgent care as a service.
That's a good point.
That's where we're going. That's where we're going. So now the person's not leaving the house. The person is actually waiting for that, like a Domino's pizza or like an Uber ride.
Because the inventor we went over Saturday, he invented the mobile X-ray machine. these things are out there.
That was 100 years ago. He did that too.
Right. And if he did what if I want to say if he did that 100 years ago, imagine how sophisticated it is now. You're able to set up in a house and handle, have that really intimate relationship with your doctor instead of you being a number, you know, to charge the insurance companies. So I agree with you. A lot of these big hospitals that are just huge, like they're huge and they're intimidating. When you look at them, you might see them downsized.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've known several hospitals that closed down the last 5 or 6 years since Obama left office. So, or since Obama has come into office. So they couldn't handle the big economic downturn, and we're about to go through another economic downturn, which is going to force many of these institutions to rethink how they deliver medicine and how they operate as a business model.
Yeah.
Especially with these new smartphones and their cameras with 20 megapixels, 25 megapixels, that can actually look at a person's wound and determine whether or not it's infected just based on the quality of the camera being able to peer deep into, you know, the sore itself, whether or not it has pus in it, whether or not it has any sort of a deeper infection or a surface infection, or what kind of micro germs that are sitting on top of the person's skin, things of that nature, eczema, whether or not it's eczema or not, or some form of other rash, poison oak or something like that. There's all types of ways that you can leverage the technology to get the job done now. So that's where we are.
And I agree. I agree.
All right, last one on the docket, and then we'll open it up for open mic, and everybody in the hangout who's in the chat can actually engage as well. Tesla's big battery made another $4 million on its way to pay for itself. This one is from electric.co. This is the picture of the facility itself. I know you have a lot of feedback coming from you. Tesla's big battery system in South Australia, Neon's Hornsdale Power Reserve keeps making a lot of money on the energy market and is quickly working toward paying for its original cost. Tesla's 129 megawatt per hour power pack project in South Australia provide the same grid services as peaker plants, but cheaper, quicker, and with zero emissions through its battery system. It's so efficient that it reportedly should have made around $1 million in just a few days in January. But Tesla later complained that they are not being paid correctly because the system doesn't account for how fast Tesla's power packs start discharging their power to the grid. The system is basically a victim of its own efficiency, which the Australian energy market operator confirmed is much more rapid and accurate, valuable than a conventional steam turbine in a report published by Purpose earlier this year. Energy storage capacity is managed by Neon, which operates the adjacent wind farm. In its latest quarterly report, AMO confirmed that the giant Tesla battery system generated about $4.5 million in revenue from its grid services during the fourth quarter. Most of the revenue still coming from power pack systems participation in FCAS, frequency control, and ancillary services market, which generally consisted of large and costly gas generators and steam turbines kicking in to compensate for the loss of power. Neon has previously disclosed that the massive Tesla power pack system cost them only $66 million, meaning that it quickly it is quickly on its way to pay for itself. The government also participated in the funding, and they shouldn't be disappointed in their investment since a recent report showed that the project saved $40 million on energy during the first year of operation alone. Tesla's big battery in South Australia has inspired new large battery systems coming online in the past months, and more are expected in the coming months. Here's a quarterly report from AMO. I won't go into this because I don't think our audience really cares too much about these intricate details, because it's all compliance and legal mumbo jumbo. But looking at this picture right here, they talked about the wind farms adjacent to the battery packs. And judging by that picture, there's got to be at least 50 windmills, wind turbines in that picture. Complex, you have anything you want to add to this?
These sorts of systems have zero moving parts, and this is the reason why they're so efficient. And there's just no other way around battery technology. There really isn't.
Question: those wind farms are charged with a battery, right?
They participate in some of the generation.
Okay. Now the batteries can be transported to other places to use by customers. Am I?
No, you don't transport the batteries. The batteries hold the electricity, and then they feed it back into the grid. Feed it off to the grid, and then the people absorb it. Or the residents absorb it.
It's dumped onto the grid during off-peak hours.
Mm-hmm. Right, which is at night. Normally at nighttime.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. So so what ends up happening is that during a time where there's actually no energy being produced, the energy that was collected during the time that was being produced is being put into production. So you have a constant steady stream of energy, versus in the old system, there was a lot of energy transference from other places. Right. And you only had so much energy that would be generated throughout one day. And then you had other backup systems or other secondary systems. You had coal plants in some areas, and, you have nuclear plants in some areas. And then on top of that, you've got some solar applications, and it's like a menagerie of energy production. Versus something like this. It's very straightforward. It's very straightforward. You have an energy collection apparatus during the time when the energy is available. And then when it's not, the batteries dump energy back onto the grid during off-peak hours. And you just go back and forth between the cycle.
Mm-hmm. Ebb and flow. Yeah, and even if you have a Tesla power pack in your home or some other form of power pack, you can actually sell the energy back to the grid.
Yeah. Yep. Energy credits.
Yep. You can do that through tokenization of a crypto.
Yeah, and
that's another conversation.
And we've talked about that type of application in the past with other companies doing the same thing.
But although I'm surprised looking at the picture that they have it right on the ground. Typically, we always, for like our data centers, we always have it one story up off the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Just in case something does happen. Mm-hmm.
A lot of battery right there.
Yeah, and that's something that could actually be done in places like Africa, places like Namibia, and outside of Morocco, most of the sub-Sahara areas, Sudan. There's a lot of opportunity that's coming out of this. This company, or this South Australia, according to the report, actually spent $66 million on it, and actually is making back that money
already
within the first quarter. So,
how much?
$66 million.
Oh, okay. I thought you said something. Okay. Well, there's need for it.
I beg your pardon?
There's a need for it.
There's a need for it. Yeah.
If he's making this money back that quickly, there's a need for it.
Well, I would be opening up multiple. I mean, judging by the size of that picture, well, all the real estate that's available, I would be opening up way more battery battery facilities.
And this is the same type of system that Tesla rolled out in Puerto Rico after the hurricane.
I'm not sure if they actually did it.
What?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think there was talks about them doing it, but I don't think they actually did it.
No, from what I recall, they touched down and installed a port. I mean, nothing to this size right here. It wasn't to this.
Right, because Puerto Rico can't afford it. But I think Elon, I think Elon was trying to address some of the turbines and stuff that went down. So there was old grids that did go down. So I think the grids are back up and going now. But
yeah.
So I think it was just an experiment. I don't think he actually is doing it to make any money. But the point of the matter is, there's a lot of opportunity that's going to come from that. $66 million is not a whole lot of money to spend on this. It's actually being proven to be a profitable opportunity. So, especially with those windmills in the back, and then you have the solar panels on the side. You can't see them right there in the picture, though. So we're in open mic now. You guys can bring up anything you want.
Is there anything from the chat to bring up?
Maybe we should go to the chat and give a shout out. Let me see.
Yeah, definitely big up information, man. Man, thanks again, man, for having us on yesterday, and just thank you.
Yeah.
What's going on? Thank you very much.
Yes. Shout out to Super Triz. Shout out to Nate. Shout out to Dante. Jock Crow. Shout out to Richard Dixon. Shout out to Six Figure Days.
Masonian, what's good, G?
Yep.
Christian.
Yep. Rakai Wood.
Ronan Black. Freelance Ronan, what's good, you guys?
Yeah. Solo TV 84. Definitely got to bring you on in. Actually, give you a red shirt.
Damiente, what's good, G?
Man, I ain't seen Damiente in a while. What's going on?
He's around, man. I talk to that dude all the time.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Hey, what's going on, brother?
It's fine, man. Peace to all the original men on the panel. I appreciate the information that y'all dropped. You guys gonna have to excuse me. I'm at work right now. I do work at the airport, so if you do hear some background noises, if you hear some Airbuses flying in the background, at least you guys know why. Brother L, he saw the link that I just went ahead and dropped not too long ago in regards to, I guess, the Chinese intent by 2025 to, and forgive me because I actually just saw it. I'm pretty sure most of you guys are subscribed to RT News. I'm a big fan of RT News. Granted, we're all aware of biases, but, humans being humans, who isn't biased at this point? That being said, I found it real interesting. I mean, again, what am I going to tell that you guys don't know? The Chinese, they're not playing. They're going to go ahead and do what they have to do to go ahead and compete on a global level. I don't know why they wouldn't be called a superpower, but I'm pretty sure there's a more academic, concise term to what constitutes as a superpower. But I mean, again, it's whenever I see something like this, obviously, me being the resident pro-black, I'm going to ask myself, well, when are we going to do something? But I can say that when you see projects like this, it doesn't. It signifies, at the very least, some.
Well, Tony, you're breaking up a lot, brother. You're breaking up a lot.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Hear you a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Yeah, I apologize, man. The service over here is spotty. But
sound good. You sound good.
okay, yeah, I was just saying that when a country or society does something, a project of the magnitudes, it demonstrates social cohesion, even a small form of altruism, if you will.
Hmm.
And that's something that obviously, I would hope at least in the 22nd century that Africa, obviously not as a whole, but I mean, we see what Rwanda is doing, what Kenya is doing, minus some of the internal strife, and what Nigeria can do based on the demographic projections. I mean, at the very least, it's a potential human capital to have a country the size of Colombia with almost 700 million by the end of the century, if the projections are to be believed. So, I mean, that's basically it. It's just a lot of well wishing on my end is basically what I'm telling you. A lot of well wishing.
Hmm. I just want to answer a question from the chat. Nate had asked one earlier. We kind of missed that. Says, do artificial intelligence and machine learning jobs require advanced mathematics and computer science degrees? They don't. And we actually dropped. We did a hangout on that. So I think Minell already dropped the links to it. But basically, you can get a nano degree, something in less than 6 months, and actually do something. They also have um, programs on ADX that allow you to actually get a credible degree if you wanted to, in a very short amount of time. I think they call it micro master's degrees. You could do that in less than a year.
I really did want to try to address what Sonny was saying. Unfortunately, man, it was kind of hard to pick up what he was saying. I think he just had a really bad connection.
Yeah, and I want to clarify. I know I go off, but the things I want to reiterate, the things we talk about, we just don't talk about them. We say, Mike will say, this is the future. You can go on edX and Udacity or any other sites that we provide you all to get your education in this. And on YouTube, we as Black men are quick to put up channels talking about other stuff. If you don't believe me, just go to just click YouTube homepage and another browser window and see the live shows that's happening right now. And it's mind numbing. It's mind numbing. It's mind numbing. It's mind numbing. How many times can you beat a dead horse? Meanwhile, on our channel, yes, we talk about 3 different topics, really 4 different days. But every time we talk about it, there's something new. There's something updated. We're telling you what's going on. We're keeping you abreast. A man, a gentleman, should be abreast on the current issues of the day. And we are doing that. Our channel is multifaceted, and plus we are letting you know where our sources are. You can read it yourself, and where you can go to educate yourself. Because a modern man, a man needs to educate himself. The Black man needs to educate himself on these new topics that are affecting today. And we're doing that. We are doing that. We're letting you all know.
And I'll tell you this too. I mean, because of the breadth of the information, that has to be consumed. I mean, this is really it's a I think it's more of a philosophical outlook, right? How you choose to see the world more than anything. And we hear it quite a bit. Brothers who are listening, and we hear it quite a bit from a lot of the sisters about like what it is that we do and don't do. But it's interesting because you look at the viewership numbers, like on this hangout, like right now, right? Just look at the numbers. Yeah, you would know that there's actually brothers that know what we know, do what we do, right? Speak the things that we speak, right? And try to put forth action plans and implant ideas into the very few people who are listening, right? So that there is something that is being done. There is something that's being considered. Solutions are being thought about, regardless as to what the current day narrative is. So you once you fully submerge yourself on this end, and not on the end of trying to convince people that you are doing what it is that you're doing. Fuck convincing them. You go about doing it, right? Because they're going to wake up one day and they're going to notice things are completely different around them, right? And meanwhile, you'll be functioning normally within society with all of these changes, and they won't be able to quite put two and two together, quite try to make out where's the cognitive dissonance, where does it lie, and it lies solely within them. So this is an exercise in what taking on our true roles and our true purpose, our true roles and our true purpose. This is what this is all about. It's not about any of the other shit that doesn't essentially move you forward.
We have a lot of new participants, so I just want to make sure we acknowledge those few people. Gregory Wyatt, hey, what's going on with you? I think we kind of
Randall Cherry also, man. Shout outs to you, bro. What's going on?
Hey, what's going on? Who else is here? Who else?
I think we shouted everybody out, man.
Oh, Logic Needed. What's going on?
Yeah. What's going on, G? Jack said, when you guys get old, you're going to fuss with the virtual crossword puzzle while drinking your African organic coffee.
Right.
No, actually, I don't know. I plan to be like filthy rich and doing something stupid with the money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think what's going on, in modern YouTube is that a lot of people don't have any direction, so they kind of just live in day to day. Don't really have any set goals. If they have any goals, their goals are set so low, that it's not really advancing them in life. So I've been doing this type of stuff since undergrad. So I've been doing this for over 10 years. It's not nothing new to me. So if it seems like we're rigid, because I got a few emails saying that I'm pretty rigid, and I don't, I'm somewhat intimidating. I'm actually not really. I may come off as that, but I'm not really.
If you
but
are,
Mike, you
right, like Mike, really?
No.
Yeah, I've had a few people email me already, but
what are they telling you to be nicer? Are they telling you to be nicer?
Well, they say I pick on my no, but I don't know if that's true. But
really?
Yeah. Stop picking on my no. But we run the hangout the way we do because it has to be some form of order. I don't like chaos. I can't stand chaos. It's like I need things to be structured. I need things to be organized, and I need to have set goals and agendas because that's how I was groomed. Early in my career. So I come from that legacy school of thought. Plus, I've worked in startups, so I know what goes on in startups and how fast development takes place, and how much needs to be invested, and who needs to be in place. And in startups, it's not the same way as in legacy organizations. Legacy organizations, it does have a lot of overlap in employment. So you may see some people who are considered to be admins or administrative assistants, or some of these menial jobs with these funky titles, and they're not really doing much. In startups, it's not like that. One person may have to do multiple jobs, and we covered several articles where people have some of these companies have 50 people. For example, WhatsApp is worth $7 billion, but it only has about 50 employees. Bird Scooters was valuated last year as the fastest growing startup at $2 billion, and it only has maybe about 35 people working there.
Yep, I think the last roster count was at like I think it's like 50.
Yeah,
it's 50 people, but it's a $2 billion company.
Right, it's considered to be a small business for the most part. Small businesses are anything less than 100 people. So I've seen how things work with 60,000 employees versus 100 employees or less. Big stark differences because 100 employees have to wear multiple hats, whereas 60,000 employees, it could actually be siloed out. And here, we consider ourselves an intellectual co-op, and I would dare say that we're probably more of a knowledge startup. And we're probably the only ones in the manosphere doing what we do on a collective level. So we do tend to be a little bit more rigid and less playful, but that's because we have a more serious approach, a more focused approach as to where we need to be. We covered an article about Africa, and Africans are at least 10 years ahead of us. They already turned in billions of dollars in their startups. And their startups started right after the recession, 2008, 2009. It's 2019 now. They're 10 years. That was 10 years ago.
The days of the Easter line are over.
Right, and we haven't even started having these conversations on Black YouTube. And I see hundreds of dollars being tossed around in super chats and Patreons and things of that nature. And I'm not pocket watching. I'm just making a point that we're not harnessing our financial capabilities as well as our intellectual capabilities to create something that's going to be more formidable in the next technological life cycle or the next presidential cycle.
Mm-hmm.
So we went from just having hangouts, just shooting the breeze in April of last year, 2018, to now we're talking multi-billion-dollar infrastructure projects on the table. Most people aren't even having these kinds of discussions. We're not talking snapback money or silk screen money. We're talking something more major, and I think that there are some men, less so than women, but there are some men who feel that what we do, what we talk about, is not really all that important, and that you're not really doing much, or we're not really impressed with with the Black Brain Trust or what you guys do and things of that nature. But I ask, who else is doing what we do? And if you think you can do a better job, then so be it. Put your ideas on the table. We're always willing to go. We're willing to actually defend the platform that we have because we put in a lot of effort for it. This takes a lot of brain power. Just to create a docket actually takes a lot of effort. We have to scrutinize all the information.
It was a week's worth of emails, right? To go for each, yeah. Yeah,
the information has to be evaluated before we can even talk about it publicly, because we don't want to pull anything from like the National Enquirer and talk about Donald Trump's toupee flying off his head and then have that as a part of the discussion. That's not going to happen. There has to be some legitimate investigation and questioning on whether or not this needs to go on the docket. So that's the first part of it. And then the second part of it is to actually bring it, put it actually together, and then bring it to the hangout, and then have the wherewithal, the ability to actually have a deeper dive discussion on the very subject at best. Because if I could guarantee you take that to another hangout, that thing gonna sit on the table. If it was a piece of paper, it would just sit on the table. Ain't nobody gonna touch that. You want to talk about that? Nope. Not talking about that.
I wholeheartedly agree.
Yeah, and it has to be discussed, and then it has to be disseminated, and then the question is come. We need to be able to back up our input that we've already given out, because then there's people out there who want to poke holes in our arguments and make it seem like try to test whether or not we really know what we're talking about. When in reality, if you go through our hangouts, we pretty much stood our ground on all of our points.
Well, and and there's things that we bring up too, and people who are listening in, who have different professional backgrounds can actually verify and vouch for a lot of what we say when we talk about new technologies and stuff like that. Next thing you know, they turn around and go, you know what? There's some stuff like that they're talking about in my job, and we're actually moving towards that at my job. We're doing this. We're implementing this. We're using this sort of software now. So nothing that we're discussing is crazy. This isn't like fluff or just imaginary ideas or things that we're bringing up. No, this is the world that we actually exist in. I mean, if you can unplug from black dysfunction for a short amount of time and plug into the globe, basically, the inner workings of what's going on in the world as a whole, what you'll find is there's a completely different world out there. And what you'll find is that there's innovations, there's technologies, they're being deployed, they're being put into the market, and this stuff it's happening in real time, and it's not it's not apologetic, because this is the technology cycles we're talking about. This is the business cycles we're talking about. We're also talking about banking cycles, political cycles. We're talking about things that far supersede like your opinion on things or what you feel about things. These don't consider your opinions or your feelings like that. So I mean, you can brush it off, right? You can have an opinion about it and brush it off, sure. Does your opinion change what's actually going on in the world? No. No, what's going on in the world will change your opinion at some point.
Yeah, and we were on Information Man show last night, and there was actually a couple of people who, or maybe might have been one person who actually, said some very disparaging things about me and called me a Sambo, because I used a talking point that did not fit his or this person.
Oh yeah.
This person's focal points.
Yeah.
But that's the sort of pushback that you get when you're having these sort of discussions, because they hear one thing and then they're triggered, and then the whole discussion goes out the window. So now we just spent 10 to 15 minutes, talking about some, trying to talk about the respectability politics of a talking point that that's already been written in code and in law. Like how can you argue this? These people exist. You can't just ignore these people.
Well, I've always been one who fully incorporated the saying from Albert Einstein that you can't solve a problem using the same level of like intelligence that created it. Right? You have to think above whatever level of intelligence you were at when a problem occurred. You have to think above it in order to solve it. Right? So you can't address a problem. You can't address a problem with the same. So again, if we bring up policy, as it relates to a certain issue, and we're exploring, we're exploring ways of solving a problem. What we can't do is circle right on back around to the same talking point that's been talked about for the last few years, 10, 15, 20 years. You're not going to get anywhere. You have to think above it. You might have to circumvent a lot of things altogether and think in new ways, right? Which may just wholesale solve a whole bunch of problems, or just eliminate them altogether and just give you a whole new paradigm to work with. Our minds have to be open to thinking that way, like making just like a wholesale change if it makes sense to do so.
Yeah, I think the new talking point, the new hashtag is more about, you know, ADOS and all these other things. But we spend less time on hashtags and more time on the sustainable and emerging ideas that's going to actually elevate and elevate our abilities in the new fourth industrial revolution.
Mm.
All of these trending talking points don't really mean much to the larger future going forward. It may mean something on a personal level, but from an industrial standpoint, that has no bearing at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, artificial intelligence doesn't care about what happened 100 years ago. It just cares about the data that you input into it. So it's only as good as the data that you put into it. But if you don't have any data to put into it, then it's not going to work anyway for you. So
yeah, it's kind of like, okay, well, it's like, okay, if you score the social victory, great, right? And I'm not trying to dismiss it. I'm not trying to dismiss any sort of victories gained in like social movements and social demonstrations. I'm not, but there is something to be said about industry and about tech and about where all of these things will ultimately put social movements and things of that sort, where it's going to put it into a greater social context. Because when the technology fundamentally changes your whole paradigm, okay, yes, we can look at the moves that were made to mold and shape society to make it, to just make it greater than what it's been in the past, right? There's that part, sure. And then there's the other side of it. There's the technological side, the thing that undergirds our societies, how we communicate, like just like these platforms right here, YouTube, and we're using either cell phones, tablets, smart, laptop computers, and all that type of stuff, and where all of that is going to go, because all of that is going to largely affect how it is that we interact with each other on a social level. So I just think that this wholesale requires an upgrade in thinking, a more sophisticated form of thinking, or at least just applying more nuance to how we think.
Mm-hmm. So does anybody in the chat have any questions that they want to pose and put on the table? We'll give it another 5 minutes, and then if we don't see anything from the chat, we can actually close out.
Yeah, that sounds good, because I'm gonna have to get daughter dinner together for my daughter and getting her ready for school in the morning and stuff.
I know you have any closing thoughts?
No closing thoughts.
Yeah,
go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, Reno Cherry has the question. How do I send an idea for a topic? We're actually going to open up an inbox for the Black Brain Trust for news and information. So stand by while we do that. Should have that done by tomorrow. You can also post a topic at the end of the video underneath the comment section. So, or after the video is actually complete tonight.
Yeah,
that's one way to.
Yeah. And just and all the new people that that popped in tonight, check out the stream, just thank you guys so much for coming in. And again, a special shout out to Information Man, dude. Definitely big up.
Yeah, Information Man came through in the clutch. I've been trying to work this out with Information Man for a couple months now. So.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Thank you. Appreciate it very much. Thank you.
But I think that's all I've got, gentlemen.
That's all I have as well. One last note. One-on-one session with me after these hangouts or on a scheduled day, I do offer that.
y'all want to reach out to Mike, yeah.
Yeah, you can send a message after the hangout. Put it in the comment section. That works, or you can send me a direct message on YouTube. All right, so thank you all for joining us, and have a good night.